Beneath the surface of everything you know, beneath the noise of thoughts, the texture of emotions, the presence of form, there is only one language: frequency. It's not spoken, written, or even conceptual. It's felt. It's the silent rhythm beneath existence itself. If you could tune into this hidden pulse, if you could listen to life not as a collection of events, but as a broadcast of energy, what would your life reveal? What would you begin to notice that's always been there, just beyond the reach of your ordinary senses? Let's begin there. Most people think of frequency as a measurement, something tied to sound, light, or radio waves. But in reality, it's far more fundamental. Frequency is not just something emitted. It is the pattern behind all existence. It's the rhythm of being itself. Quantum physics has helped illuminate this truth. At the tiniest levels of the universe, particles don't behave like tiny billiard balls, colliding and bouncing around in a chaotic dance. Instead, they act like waves, oscillating, vibrating, and existing as probabilities rather than certainties. They aren't things. They're pulses of possibility. This means that everything, from a grain of sand to your own thoughts, has a vibrational pattern, a frequency. Not metaphorically, but literally. Reality isn't built from stuff, it's built from rhythm. Imagine for a moment that existence is a giant cosmic radio. Every moment is a transmission. Every person, place, and idea is broadcasting a signal. You too are both a transmitter and a receiver, constantly tuning in and broadcasting back. When mystics and poets speak of the unity behind all things, they're often describing this frequency layer. Rumi captured it when he wrote, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." That's what frequency reveals. The infinite signature carried inside the finite. The whole inside the part. Nikola Tesla, one of the few visionaries who straddled science and intuition, famously said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." He wasn't being poetic. He was pointing toward a reality most people never learn to perceive. But what happens when we begin to sense that reality? Not just conceptually, but in everyday life. Most people think their emotions are private experiences, or that their thoughts exist only inside their heads. But here's what most don't realize. Every emotion you feel, every belief you carry, every thought you repeat is part of a frequency pattern. You're not just thinking or feeling, you're tuning. This is why your energy changes when you walk into a room filled with tension, or why you feel instantly comfortable with someone you've just met. It's not random. It's resonance. Every relationship is a form of energetic harmony or dissonance. When we say we click with someone, we're really describing a match in vibration. Think of your mood like a tuning fork. Whatever frequency you're holding, you send out into your surroundings. Other people, situations, even opportunities respond accordingly, vibrating in harmony or clashing in conflict. Your frequency shapes your experience, whether you're conscious of it or not. And it goes deeper still. Your environment, your routines, even the language you use, these are all part of your energetic architecture. The background noise of your life is constantly calibrating your state of being. The words you speak become patterns. The media you consume, the spaces you inhabit, the habits you repeat, they all tune you. This is why some people can walk through life weighed down without understanding why. It's not always about effort, it's about signal. They're emitting static, absorbing distortion, and they've never learned how to listen to the frequency they're carrying. So why is this understanding so rare? Why don't we grow up learning how to tune ourselves? We live in a world built on the visible. We're taught to trust what we can measure, prove, or hold in our hands. We value solidity, structure, things that can be named and labeled. But frequency doesn't belong to that world. It can't be boxed or frozen. It lives in the invisible. This is what makes it so easy to ignore and so easy to dismiss. We inherit a belief, quietly and collectively, that what cannot be seen must not be real. And so we miss the very patterns that shape our experience. This is the myth of solidity, the idea that reality is fixed, hard, and external. But in truth, reality is soft, responsive, and deeply internal. It changes based on how we perceive, where we place our attention, and the frequency we hold. And this brings us to something even more personal: fear. Because if we start to truly acknowledge that we are frequency beings, it means we have to let go of the old story, the one where we're victims of circumstance, separate from everything around us. Shifting frequency means shedding old identities and stepping into a more fluid, more uncertain way of being. That's not easy. The unknown is uncomfortable, even when it holds freedom. And for many of us, there's something else: static, emotional trauma, mental habits, belief systems inherited from our culture or family. These create noise, jamming our inner signal. We may want to feel light, but the heaviness won't lift. Not because we aren't trying, but because we're still tuned into the station of our pain. This is where the real work begins. Not by trying to control the outside world, but by learning how to retune ourselves from within. Let's go deeper. If frequency is the language of reality, then how do we actually tune ourselves? The first thing to understand is that consciousness is not a passive observer. It's more like a prism, splitting and shaping the infinite potential of reality into the narrow band we experience as our life. What we call reality is filtered through attention, belief, and emotion. This is where quantum physics offers a surprising insight. In experiments, particles don't behave predictably until they're observed. The observer changes the outcome. What we focus on, we influence. Our attention acts like a dial. Whatever we tune into, we amplify. So if you're constantly focused on lack, resistance, or fear, you're not just noticing it, you're reinforcing that frequency. You're setting your inner dial to that station, and reality broadcasts accordingly. But this is where it gets interesting. You can change the station. This is not about forced positivity or pretending everything is fine. It's about alignment. Intention, when it's sincere and grounded, becomes a form of energetic tuning, like adjusting the tension on a guitar string. You're not ignoring reality. You're refining your relationship to it. Stillness is a powerful tool here. The more noise in the system, the harder it is to perceive subtle signals. Ancient wisdom traditions knew this. Lao Tzu said, "To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders." In silence, we stop broadcasting distortion and start receiving clarity. And in that space, we begin to sense. Frequency isn't something we create. It's something we return to, like finding a signal that was always there, just buried beneath the static. This process isn't about adding more. It's about shedding what no longer resonates. And that brings us to what this really means for life itself. When people hear the term higher frequency, They often imagine something superior or exclusive, something reserved for monks or mystics. But this is a misunderstanding. Higher frequency doesn't mean better. It means more coherent, more in sync, more attuned to the underlying rhythms of existence. Living at a higher frequency doesn't make you special. It makes you aligned. It means you move through life with less resistance because you're no longer pushing against the current. You're moving with it. Synchronicity becomes more common. You think of someone and they call. You follow a hunch and it leads exactly where you need to go. Life begins to feel less random and more like a conversation, a call and response between your inner world and the outer one. Intuition sharpens, not as a magical power, but as a natural extension of resonance. You begin to recognize patterns beneath appearances. You sense truth not just in facts, but in feeling. And perhaps most profoundly, your perception of reality begins to shift. What once seemed chaotic now reveals an underlying order. What once felt meaningless now glows with subtle intelligence. You don't just see the world differently, you participate in it differently. You become part of the signal, not the noise. The world doesn't change because you wish it to. It changes because you have changed, and so you are now tuned to a different version of it. This is the quiet miracle of living at a higher frequency. The world rearranges itself, not by force, but by resonance. So what are we really talking about here? We're talking about frequency as the hidden architecture of reality. Not just as a concept, but as a lived truth. One that shapes, connects, and transforms every part of your experience. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every habit you hold, it all broadcasts something. You are always tuning, always transmitting, always receiving. The question is, to what? What music is your life playing into the universe right now? And what would happen if you dared to retune? This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering that you are both the instrument and the musician. And once you realize that, what song will you choose to play? Thank you for being here, for your curiosity, your presence, and your willingness to explore the deeper patterns of reality. Until next time, stay tuned.